I am Derek from Denver, and I need to tell you about something that happened to me about 2 months ago that still gives me chills every single time I think about it. I've been driving for Uber for almost 5 years now in the Denver area, and I've picked up thousands of people without any major issues. Sure, I've had some awkward moments and some weird conversations, but nothing like this. I genuinely don't know why I'm sharing this, but I feel like I need to get it out there. And maybe someone else has experienced something similar. This all started on a Friday evening around 9 o'clock at night. I was working the late shift like I usually do on weekends because that's when the money is better. I got a ping for a pickup in downtown Denver near the old warehouse district by the South Platte River. The passenger name was Jennifer, and she had a 4.9-star rating, which is basically perfect. When I arrived at the pickup location, it was this really sketchy part of downtown that's kind of empty after dark with old industrial buildings and not many people around. I waited for about 3 minutes, and then this woman came walking out from behind one of the larger buildings. She was wearing all dark clothes, jeans, and a dark sweater, and she looked kind of anxious or stressed about something. She got in the car and gave me an address out in Aurora, which is about 30 minutes away, depending on traffic. I didn't think anything weird about it at first because people take long rides all the time. But right from the start, there was something off about her energy. She kept looking out the window like she was watching for something, and her leg was bouncing up and down really fast. I asked her how she was doing and if she was having a good night, and she didn't really answer me directly. She just said she needed to get somewhere quickly. I told her I'd get her there as fast as I safely could, and then I started driving. About 10 minutes into the drive, we were on this road called Evans Avenue that goes through some pretty empty areas of Denver with not much around. That's when she suddenly asked me if I'd noticed anyone following us. I looked in my mirror and didn't see anything unusual, so I told her no and asked if she was okay. She didn't answer at first. She just kept staring out the back window. Then she said something that made my entire body go cold. She said, "There's a truck that's been behind us since you picked me up." The same truck from downtown. I recognized the broken taillight on the right side. I checked my mirror again, and sure enough, there was a truck back there, a dark-colored pickup truck that did seem to have something wrong with its back end. My heart started racing because now I was thinking the same thing she was. Was someone following this woman? Was she in danger? Was I now somehow involved in something dangerous? I asked her if she knew who it was and if I should call the police, and she told me not to do that. She said it would only make things worse, and that I just needed to keep driving and not let them know that we knew they were there. So I kept driving, but I was hyper-aware now of everything, checking my mirror every few seconds. The truck stayed behind us the whole time we were on Evans Avenue. I tried changing lanes a few times to see what they would do, and they changed lanes too, always staying about 3 or 4 car lengths behind. My palms were getting sweaty on the steering wheel. I kept asking Jennifer questions about what was going on, but she wouldn't tell me anything specific. She just kept saying she was sorry for getting me involved and that this would be over soon. We got onto the I-25 highway heading south toward Aurora, and I thought maybe they would back off once we were on the main highway with more cars around. But the truck stayed with us. It was really unnerving. I was seriously considering just pulling over and stopping the ride completely, but something in Jennifer's voice made me feel like she was genuinely scared, and that stopping might make things worse. So I kept driving. We were about 20 minutes into the ride at this point. I tried talking to Jennifer more, asking her again who was following us and what was happening, but she just kept staring out the window without really talking. Then she said something that I will never forget. She said, "If anything happens to me, tell someone. Tell the police. Tell someone online. Don't let them make this disappear." Those words absolutely terrified me. What does that even mean? What kind of situation was I in? I was now genuinely afraid that I was going to witness something terrible happening to this woman in my car. My hands were shaking. We exited the highway and got onto this road in Aurora that was getting darker and less populated. The truck was still behind us. I could see it clearly now in my mirror. It was definitely a dark blue or black pickup truck with tinted windows. I started looking for police or well-lit areas where I could safely stop. That's when Jennifer suddenly yelled at me to turn left down this side street. I did without hesitating. The truck didn't make the turn. Instead, it continued straight on the main road and disappeared from sight. I was so relieved in that moment, but also still terrified because I didn't know what was happening, or if this was some kind of trick. I asked Jennifer if we were safe now, and she said yes, and that she was really sorry for putting me through that. I asked her again who was following her, and she finally said something. She said that she had gotten involved with someone she shouldn't have, and that person had people watching her. She didn't give me any more details than that. We drove the rest of the way to her destination in basically silence. When we got to the address, it was a residential area with normal houses and normal-looking streets. She got out of the car and I asked her if she was going to be okay, and she just said she hoped. So, she gave me a 5-star rating and added a comment that said, "Thank you for being brave." I haven't seen her since that night. I didn't report it to Uber because honestly I didn't know what I would even say. I've been thinking about her constantly since that night, wondering if she's okay and if she's still in whatever situation she was in. A couple weeks ago, I got a message from an unknown number that just said, "She's safe. Thank you." I have no idea who sent it, but it made me feel a little bit better. I still drive for Uber because I need the money, but I'm a lot more cautious now. I check my mirror more often. I pay attention to other cars more carefully. I've told some other drivers about this, and a few of them have said they've had similarly strange experiences with passengers who seemed like they were in some kind of danger or running from someone. I don't know if this story is just crazy coincidence or if there's something darker going on that people don't really talk about, but I know what I experienced that night was real and it was terrifying. Sometimes I think about that ride and I wonder if I did the right thing. Should I have pulled over and called the police anyway? Should I have refused the ride? I honestly don't know anymore. All I know is that something happened that night in Denver that I can't fully explain, and I've been carrying it with me ever since. So I've been driving Uber for about 3 years now, and I honestly thought I'd seen everything that this job could possibly throw at me. Late night pickups, drunk passengers, weird requests, aggressive people, weird conversations, you name it, I've had to deal with it. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened to me last month. I still think about it constantly, and honestly, I'm not even sure if I should be telling people this story, but I need to get it out there because it's been eating at me every single day. This whole thing happened on a Tuesday night around midnight. I was heading home after pulling a really long and exhausting shift, completely exhausted, and just wanting to get some sleep in my bed. That's when I got a ping for a pickup on the outskirts of the city. The address was in this industrial area I barely knew anything about. Lots of abandoned warehouses and completely empty streets. It was the kind of place that looks completely different and way more sinister at night. The passenger's name was Marcus, and his rating was solid, like 4.8 stars, so I figured it would be fine. You know how you kind of trust the rating system because most people are decent enough. When I pulled up to the location, there was barely any light anywhere, just a few dim street lamps and this one massive building that looked like it hadn't been used in years, maybe decades. I waited there for maybe 2 minutes before this tall guy walked out from between some buildings. He was wearing a dark hoodie even though it was warm out that night, and I couldn't really see his face clearly because he kept his head down the whole time. He got in without saying much and just gave me an address across town. Nothing weird yet, just quiet and strange. But as soon as he sat down in my backseat, the vibe completely changed in an instant. I can't explain it exactly, but it felt off in a way I'd never experienced before in all my years driving. He didn't smell bad, or anything like that. It was more like the air in my car got heavier somehow, like something was pressing down on me and making it hard to breathe. I asked him how his night was going, just making small talk like I usually do with passengers to break the silence, and he barely responded to me. He just stared straight ahead out the windshield without moving a muscle. I tried again, asked him where he was coming from, trying to be friendly, and he said something like, "Somewhere I shouldn't have been," in this really flat tone that had absolutely no emotion whatsoever. That's when my stomach started doing this weird thing and I felt uncomfortable. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid, that I was just tired from the long shift, that this was just another passenger, but my instincts were absolutely screaming at me. I started driving faster than usual without even realizing it was happening. The streets were pretty empty at that time of night, which didn't help my nerves or anxiety at all. We were passing through this section where there weren't many businesses or houses, just dark roads and the occasional car coming the other way. I kept glancing at him in my mirror, and he was still staring straight ahead, completely motionless like a statue. It was genuinely creepy as hell. Then he suddenly leaned forward between the seats and asked, "Do you ever feel like you're being watched?" I didn't know what to say to that question. I just laughed nervously and said something like, "All the time in this job, man." He didn't laugh back or respond with humor. He just repeated it in the exact same flat voice. "No, I mean, do you feel like you're being watched right now? In this car?" My hands actually went cold on the steering wheel, and I felt this chill run down my entire spine. I told him we were almost at his destination, and I focused on the road, trying to stay calm and composed. But then something really weird happened that I didn't expect. He started humming. Not like a normal hum. It was this low, monotonous sound that went on and on and on continuously. It was the kind of sound that gets under your skin and stays there. I turned up the radio a little bit to block it out, but he stopped talking after that, so I turned it back down. The humming continued for probably 5 minutes straight without stopping, and I felt like I was going insane sitting there listening. I kept checking the time, checking my GPS, wondering how much longer this ride was going to be. We still had about 8 minutes to go, according to the app. That's when I noticed something in my mirror that made my heart skip a beat. There were headlights behind me that had been there for quite a while now. I tried changing lanes to see if they would change too, and they did. Every single time without fail. My heart started pounding in my chest hard. Was this guy connected to someone following us? Was this some kind of setup or trap? I started thinking about all those stories you hear about. Drivers getting robbed or worse. Terrible things that happen in dark areas late at night to people alone. I took a few unnecessary turns to see if the car would still follow, and it did, staying right there behind me constantly. I was genuinely terrified at this point, my hands shaking on the wheel. I looked back at my passenger, and his eyes were finally moving. He was looking at me in the mirror, and he had this slight smile on his face. Just this small, creepy smile that made my skin crawl instantly. I asked him directly what was going on and what he wanted, and he didn't answer me. He just continued staring at me with that expression, that smile still on his face, like he knew something I didn't. I made a split-second decision that probably saved me from something worse. I pulled into a well-lit gas station and told him this was his stop, that his destination must have been wrong, or that I had to end the ride immediately. He didn't argue or protest about it. He just got out of the car, calmly, and started walking away like nothing had happened. I didn't even wait for him to rate me or for him to fully close the door. I just pulled out of there immediately, my foot on the gas. When I looked in my mirror, the car that had been following me was nowhere to be seen, and neither was Marcus anywhere. The gas station had security cameras everywhere. The area was lit up bright, but when I looked around carefully, I couldn't see him anywhere in sight. He just vanished into thin air like he was never there. I drove home shaking badly the whole way, and I couldn't sleep that night at all. I kept replaying the entire ride in my head. Every word he said, every look he gave me. The next morning, I checked my Uber app to see if he'd left a rating or comment, and his entire account was completely deleted, like it never existed at all. I reported the ride to Uber support, but they said there was no record of a passenger with that name or that pickup location on my account, which makes absolutely no sense because I have the ride history right there in my app. I'm not making this up or exaggerating. I know how this sounds. I know people think I'm crazy, but I swear on everything this happened exactly like I'm telling you. I haven't been back to that pickup location since that night, and I've changed my settings so I don't accept rides in that area anymore. I've been thinking about whether I should go back there during the day, try to figure out what that area really is, or if I can find any information about what went down that night. Part of me wants to know what that was all about, but another part of me is absolutely terrified of what I might find if I dig deeper. I mentioned it to a couple other Uber drivers I know, and one of them got really quiet and said he'd had a similar experience in that same area about 6 months ago with a passenger who asked him strange questions and then just disappeared without a trace. Now I'm wondering how many other drivers this has. Happened to, and nobody's talking about it publicly. I don't know what to believe anymore or what to do.